Warning. The following podcast features views and opinions that are likely to trigger the extreme fanboys and fangirls who disagree with them. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome back to the second episode of Hot Takes with Billy Biz, because I couldn't think of a better title, and that's kind of what it is. It's my unpopular opinions. Thank you to my buddy Hal Rudnick, who joined me on the first episode to talk about Ant-Man, my least favorite Avenger. Yeah, if you haven't checked that out, check it out already. Today, I have, again, cackling. I have the Joker with me. I have Ed Greer, and we're talking Batman Forever. Thanks for joining me, Ed.
Oh, dude, thank you for having me.
So, Ed, you once said, and I really loved this quote, you said, the reason why you're so hard on Batman things is because you almost love Batman too much. It's like, no one will ever be good enough for my daughter type of thing.
Yeah. I got my gun out when her date comes to pick her up for prom. Yeah.
Because that makes you my Batman go-to guy.
Oh, dude, thank you. I have a real passion for the character, and I just think he does so many things that most of the movies just concentrate on one aspect of him.
Right. Yeah. And I think, especially when Batman 89 came out, it was a complete reinvention of the character. But that's the thing that makes Batman so great, is that the character is so rich that you can have so many interpretations.
Yes.
You can have Batman Brave and the Bold, while you also have, Batman Begins or The Dark Knight. You can go all into the spectrum. Today we're talking about Batman Forever. This was a movie that if I were to trace the lineage of where fans really started to divide up in terms of Batman, I think this is kind of the breaking off point. So a little context. Batman 89, Tim Burton's Batman comes out. Huge success. Batmania sweeps the country. Couldn't get away from it. So, of course, people walk out of the theater thinking, when's the next one? Tim Burton says, I don't want to do another one. And Warner Brothers says, okay, well, what if you just do a Tim Burton movie and just put Batman in it? How about that? And he's like, all right, I'll do that. Batman Returns comes out in 1992. It's not quite, it's still a successful movie. It didn't lose any money, but it's not quite the powerhouse that Batman was. And parents were unhappy with the content. But more importantly, McDonald's was unhappy with the content because they're trying to sell your kid a Happy Meal, and black oil is coming out of Danny DeVito's mouth. And,
you telling me the Max Shrek figure didn't do well?
No, man. I don't think anyone. You couldn't get the Max chip set. Dad, go save yourself. Dad, go.
There's Selena Kyle laying in an alley with a bunch of cats with your Happy Meal.
Push a button in her back and her eyes flutter a little bit. Yeah, put a bird in your mouth. No, none of that actually made McDonald's too happy. So they decided to go in a different direction. In fact, Tim Burton went to have a meeting about Batman 3, and Warner Brothers was like, don't you want to do something else? Aren't you kind of shot your wad on Batman, right? You're done, right? And he's like, okay, I get it. You don't want me to do this anymore.
You finished with that?
Hey, you going to eat that? So Joel Schumacher, Lost Boys, Time to Kill, he comes in, and with Tim Burton's blessing, he's going to change things a little bit. And Batman Forever, no one believed that this thing was going to be popular. By this point, they thought that Batman kind of was a one-and-done deal, and that people were already tired of it, and Batman Returns kind of showed the fatigue for it. And here comes Batman Forever, and it's a box office smash, far surpassing any of the expectations or goals that Warner Brothers had set for it. Huge hit at the time. Do you remember seeing or the buzz around Batman Forever in the summer of 1995?
Yeah, I do. I've been a hardcore nerd for a while, and I think me and my group of friends were really just disappointed in maybe the action quotient and some of the ways that they kind of showed Batman doing his thing and Batman Returns. So I think we were excited for a new take. And I had seen like a Time to Kill came out before that, right?
Like, I think it was right before it, because I know, isn't that where? It was either right before it or right after, but he definitely done Lost Boys too. Yeah,
and I had seen Lost Boys and really liked it, but I don't think I was such a film nerd at that time, even a kid, that I really put all that together. But I think I was hungry for a new take.
Yeah, and I remember going around town and seeing the bus stop posters of just a black Batman logo with a green question mark around it.
Yeah.
And that was such a great marketing. And then closer to the movie, they had those cool character posters where it was Batman was one and Robin was one.
I think there was an asinine blonde Bruce Wayne conversation too.
Really?
Yeah, I think in my nerd circle there was a couple of that. It was, I tell you, we were proto trolls.
So suffice to say that at the time the movie was a huge success and pretty well liked, but history has not necessarily been kind to Batman Forever. You bring up Batman Forever now, it's met with a lot of eye rolls. People tend to say this was the beginning of the end for Batman. I think Batman Forever is largely misunderstood or maligned, and that brings me to kind of my first point about this movie that I want to bring up. By the way, I just want to disclaim this show, it's not movie fights. It's not, I didn't bring Ed here so we could yell and scream and, you know, one of us walks away with the win. This is just a chance to finally set the course straight with, you know, talking with the fandom and how discourse is done and talking about movies, because at the end of the day, we both love Batman. We both love movies. Mm-hmm. This is a movie you do not love, and I do.
Well, you know, but I do think I appreciate this show as an ode to nerd civility,
yes,
as it were. I like that.
We're going to take it back to the old days when we were gentlemen,
yeah,
excluding women from our... No, just kidding.
Smack you with my bat gauntlet. I challenge you, sir.
No girls allowed. Until Daniel Radford comes on the show. I'm very excited for it. But one of the points that I want to make about this, and the first thing that kind of gets to me when people are like, ugh, this was so like campy and light, and the Batman credit card and everything, I always say pump the brakes, because I think people have now taken this and its sequel, Batman and Robin, and have formed one big melting pot of Schumacher Batman.
Oh no, it's absolutely right. Those have melded like they're melted together.
Yeah, I don't understand. Somehow when I feel like maybe that's where the backlash for Batman Forever started, was with the dissatisfaction of Batman and Robin. And I wonder if it was just because Batman and Robin, if you think about Batman and Robin, it takes the exact same story structure as Batman Forever, doesn't even bother to change it up whatsoever, and just replaces it with different characters. I mean, you can literally run the two movies side by side and see that they're in the exact same spots throughout the movie. And I wonder if that's why people, A, remember it together, and B, it's just kind of feels like it's all the same.
Well, it's like it was such a left turn from the darkness and the Baroque Tim Burton style that I think people... Yeah, they just put it as, well, this is the dumbing or the lightening or whatever you want to, or the nippling or whatever you want to call it, of Batman. That's all they think of those movies as, one big congealed mass.
Can we talk about the nipples for a second? I feel like I'm the only person on this planet that just shrugs like, oh, okay. Like, why can you explain to me, as someone who doesn't like the Bat-nipples, why this is such a big deal to people? Because you say Batman and Robin, ugh, Batman nipples, as if that like completely killed any of these movies before you saw a single frame.
No. I mean, I don't think... honestly, at the time, I noticed more of the like overt eroticism in the how they shot Batman. Like there's bat butt shots, bat this, bat that, and that combined with the nipples turned a lot of people off. Personally, I just thought it was, I like the sleekness of the bat suit, and I felt that was kind of an ode to the fact that it's a bodysuit.
Right.
But I think the previous Batman had kind of shown us Batman's suit as like armor. So I think people would go like, okay, if you were making a female breastplate for armor and you put nipples on it, that would be ludicrous, and a lot of people would be like, that's dumb. So I think making your body armor with nipples on it, just that was what my beef was. It wasn't anything about anything else.
I guess I always saw it as, and maybe this is me like projecting a little bit, but especially that first movie, Batman is like this creature that almost, it's like if you were walking along like a gothic church, just like at the end of Batman, it's like one of these gargoyles just opened up its wings and came to life, and you didn't even realize that he was right there.
Yes.
So when Joel Schumacher talks, and he's done tons of interviews about both of these movies, but when he talks about redesigning the Batsuit, he said, I wanted these to look like sculptures, like a Greek god sculpture that has come to life. And I guess in that sense, like, it makes sense to me. Like, is it necessary? Of course it's not necessary. But I guess I just never understood what, like, with that reasoning, like, yeah, it's like, what if a statue, this horrible, macabre statue of a bat, just all of a sudden you just realize, like, that's not a statue. Like, that's a guy who's going to come maybe kill me,
Well, yeah, or at least hang me over a ledge or something and scream at me. But I just think it also humanizes Batman in a way that a lot of fans don't enjoy. Me personally, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Batman is an idea, and that's not an original thought, but Batman is an idea. Batman is I think of, like, in Gotham, you could live in Gotham 20 years and never see Batman. And you could be in Gotham for 20 years and not even believe Batman exists.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's my conception of it, because it's like an urban legend type thing. And, like, when you put nipples on the legend, it becomes real in a way that is distasteful for some people, including myself.
I guess I understand that. It's more of the humanization. And I guess you get to a point where your idea of Batman is one of two things: an urban legend that some people have seen and interacted with, and others are like, you're either making that up or that just didn't happen. Or two, which I feel like this film and some of my other favorite iterations of Batman also adapt, is like, he is a silent savior of the city, but also, like, Gordon can get him on the phone. Like, it is clearly a man.
Right.
That's just, like a rogue wing of the police,
Yeah, and a man that is like, to me it is almost more impressive that, okay, there's this guy that when you see this thing in the sky, just put some snipers around police headquarters, you might get a shot at him. But he's so confident that he scouted out everything that you can't get him. And he's, you know what I mean? It's like the guys who, like, leave their drop top Ferrari open.
Right.
That kind of confidence is almost inspiring.
Well, this is definitely a version where Batman is almost more than an aid to the police. He's almost a full-on replacement, which I will get to later. I'm going to talk about concessions that I will agree this movie is a little bit of a stretch, and that's one of them. But I also want to talk about, you said earlier that this movie is considered like the lightning of Batman, or like the introducing of the campy. But I think to me, there are still some very classic Burton Batman elements to this movie that I feel like people completely overlook. And one of them, I can already see the laughter and the comments that are going to come from this, but a lot of people have a problem with the Neon Gang. And I actually think the Neon Gang is very reminiscent of, like, the mutants in Miller's Dark Knight Returns, or like a very scary, cool take. And I don't understand why people are like, ugh, the Blacklight Neon Gang. It's like, well, all of this is fantastical. Like, you just had clowns in the last one, and before that you had dudes who knew the Joker for a day but had embroidered, like, Letterman's jackets with his face on it. Like, all these goons are stupid.
Does
like,
the Joker go to the same places those, like, soccer dads? They get those those weird team things printed up at the local print shop. Like, yeah.
Was Bob the Goon in charge of, like, getting jacket sizes for
all right,
everyone?
what size are you? And be honest, guys.
Yeah, we need a 2-day turnaround on this. Mr. J is not going to wait. So I really like the Neon Gang, and I think that whole sequence is, first of all, it's really fun for me. I just like the production design. I love the idea of, like, this like really weird, scary kind of Neon Gang, but also when Batman shows up finally at the end, that's the most Burton Batman shot you could get out of even the Burton movies, with him standing in the dark in silhouette and sweeping down. Like, I feel like that's, if you had showed me that out of context and I hadn't seen these movies in a while, I might have thought that was from the first movie.
Well, I also think there's one thing to see, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the movie that introduced the giant big statues on the like statues of people holding atlases and jazz like that. You know what I mean?
Yes and no. The production designer changed hands. It was Anton first in Batman '89, and then Bo Welsh in Batman Returns. And in Batman Returns, the production design was to be a lot more militaristic, with and very, like, you know, communist-looking statues of the big, strong men pulling the levers and the hammers. So it started really in Batman Returns, but Joel Schumacher definitely amplified it to the point by Batman and Robin, they're driving down the arm of one of these statues.
Yeah, and I think the combination of that and you know what, the neon gang situation, though, I got to say, in defense of the idea, because you know, this is not about arguments. So the in defense of the idea, I think it's kind of the concept of, like, people who roam the night, who are lit up, are ultra not scared of the dark. They know that you see them coming,
sure,
and they're not trying to sneak up on you. Right. They're this thing you can see on the horizon, and you can't stop it. Let's say that's the way this gang sees themselves, because they don't try to hide themselves in the dark. They amplify the fact that they are there.
Right.
And I think that as a principle is kind of cool.
But just the execution wasn't there for you? Or?
I just felt like it was real. Like, if they had slammed some Mountain Dew and base jumped off of one of those big statues, I wouldn't have been surprised. It was very 90s extreme.
Sure, I guess in that sense, maybe it feels a little time capsule, but at the same time, like, I don't know, it feels almost very like Batman Beyond to me, like the Joker's gang, you know?
I'll buy that.
Yeah,
I'll buy that.
So I guess that's why I always saw it as a little bit more menacing than I ever did. Like,
you know what I might have done okay, I'm not a production designer, okay? Sure. But I think if I were to update that idea, I'd do it more like Akira style or anime style, to where they have literal, like, neon, like, embedded in their jacket, like real, like, machine neon, blown glass pipe almost neon, or like plastic pipe neon, and they're glowing in these weird Kirby-esque, you know, ways, Kirby-esque strips of light on them, and they're coming out of the dark, and they could turn them off if they want to, and stuff like that, to make it like these guys have adapted to the dark and the light, or the ball, you know, some silly stuff like that. But, like, they're the neon gang. They look like a neon, like, 50 sign coming to kill you. That could be really cool. I
just like the idea, too, that, like, if I'm in this world of Gotham, which it feels different than the world I live in, like, I want this. That was one of the things that, like, about the Nolan trilogy that I both appreciate and kind of lament, is that to me is very Chicago or very Pittsburgh. Yeah. Whereas in these original 4 movies, I really feel like I'm somewhere that it doesn't really exist, and I kind of enjoy that comic aspect of it. So in that sense, the Neon Gang feels like something that I couldn't see here, because it'd be ridiculous if I ran into that on the street. Yeah. But for this world, I guess it made sense to me. And then when you throw that image of Batman in a silhouette watching from the top of the building and then just swooping in, I don't know. I felt like that was classic Batman to me.
Well, there's one thing. In all the Batman movies, Batman watches crimes an inordinate amount of time.
He does a lot of... Like, in the Tim Burton Batman movie, that family didn't need to get robbed. Like, dude, he just stood there watching, like, is this kid gonna have his parents killed like I did? Okay, well, I guess I should stop it now.
And one thing I do notice, the guy who hits the dad and does all the mean stuff, he gets off light, and his buddy gets the crap kicked out of him.
Another thing that I really liked, and I thought was just really like another cool Batman moment in this, was his Batman's entrance at the Enigmatech party. Crashing through the ceiling, jumps onto the fountain, does a flip off of that, punching guys. Now, I will admit, the Batman, guy really, really doesn't help that. Like, if that wasn't there, that would be like a really great
But see, this is a lot of people's problem with Schumacher, is I think Schumacher embraces a version of Batman that is running on the giant typewriter, as it were. People who know Batman lore know that, there was a period of time that
50s,
50s, 60s, Dick Sprang and beyond sort of era where it was like, yeah, man, this is a neon world. You know what I mean? This is a beautiful light world where he's sometimes he's going to go back in time. Sometimes he's going to fight aliens, and sometimes he's going to discover the aliens are just an old man who would have got away with it if it wasn't for those kids. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many adventures that he got in the 50s and 60s that are light and bright. And I think that Schumacher, people think he just did this because he just has this weird sensibility. He and the producer at the time, Michael Uslan, who has a credit on all the movies,
right?
They were doing this on purpose. This is on purpose.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's kind of crazy to me is that, yes, this sensibility of Batman is deeply rooted in the comics, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like a valid interpretation of Batman to many Batman fans. Like a part of their history they want to deny was such a milestone part of Batman. Like, Batman wasn't always the Dark Knight. There was the Caped Crusader period of his life.
Well, that's the thing. I talked to, and I want to mention Michael Uslan again because Michael Uslan is the guy who walked around with the rights to Batman in his pocket for 20 years.
Right.
Before they made the movie, when they were telling them that, we can't make Batman and Robin because we had a movie called Robin and Maid Marian, and that didn't make any money, so we don't want to do Batman. Or CBS telling them that they should do Batman in space as a TV movie. Like, he carried the rights through that whole thing, and Jack Nicholson signing on 10 years before the project is what really got it going. So that guy deserves a lot of credit. And what he told me is, I asked him point blank, I was like, look, man, I love Batman, and I see you has a producer credit on all these movies from Batman Begins all the way back to the last one. What's the deal with that weird thing in the middle? You know what I mean? And he goes, look, if you look at the history of Batman, he started out like shooting people, and hanging monsters. And then he was hardcore for a while, and then he got a little less hardcore. Then they gave him a kid sidekick so kids could relate to him. And for 30 years, he was a light, bright character. You know what I mean? And then, not 20 years at least. And then Neil Adams comes in, and Denny O'Neil, and it goes back. It's almost like Batman's whole history is a push and pull, yin and yang from light and dark. Yes, he's a dark, damaged, probably psychotic individual who beats up people at night. But he also hangs out with a kid, and he saves us from, all these different things. You know what I mean? Yeah,
and let's talk about Robin. Let's bring up Robin, because they had tried to put Robin in these movies twice. He was originally going to be in the climax of Tim Burton's 89 Batman. Then he was also in one of Sam Hamm's versions of Batman Returns. They even went so far as to cast one of the Wayans brothers. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Marlon.
And he still gets checks for not playing Batman, because Batman Forever notoriously bought out 2 contracts. They bought out his and Billy D. Williams for Harvey Dent. But a lot of people don't like Robin in this movie. Robin was my all-time favorite character, so this was actually the biggest draw for me for this movie. Finally, Robin. I love that suit, man. I was really bummed that they didn't bring that suit back for Batman and Robin.
That suit's pretty sick.
That Batman Forever suit.
Yeah, that suit's pretty sick. The one thing I thought was kind of dumb though is like it looked like I went in the lab of Wayne Tech and made a Dick Grayson Flying Grayson suit, and I love the fact that part of it is cool, but it's almost like how Daredevil wears the exact suit that his dad wore in a couple of wrestling matches. It's like somebody's gonna put that together.
Here's my rationale though. Yes, he was part of the Flying Grayson, so he was, I guess, like, you go to the, but like,
circus famous.
Yeah, I was like, can you tell me one circus performer from when you went to Barnum and Bailey when you were 8? No.
Yeah,
so it's
true.
like he's not Bruce Wayne, where he's Gotham's most famous son. If Bruce Wayne put on the Dick Grayson Robin mask instead of a full cowl, then people would be like, obviously you're Bruce Wayne. But no one knows Dick Grayson. Maybe they knew him for a couple months in the news. But other than that, I think he can get away with it. And also that's like, there's a lot of just like conceptual problems with Robin as a character that you just have to ignore, because it is what it is. But I think they made the smartest choice possible, which was a 25-year-old, 19-year-old.
It really is. It really, that is one thing I will say. I'm pretty good at playing devil's advocate, and this is not one of my least favorite Batman movies. Batman and Robin is, to me, the least favorite. This movie somewhere in the middle. So I do like the fact that this is the only way Robin even sort of works is right. I was about to graduate high school, and then my parents get gunned down or they fall out of the sky or whatever. And I love that he had agency, for lack of a better word. He had a choice in the matter. All the other conceptions, especially All-Star Batman in the comic books, he just sort of just steals this baby.
Puts him in the brightest primary colors he can find and uses him as a distraction so he doesn't get shot first.
Yeah.
No, I get it. But the point of creating Robin, like you said, was to bring in little boys that are like, well, I could be Batman's friend. And that's why I think Robin was my favorite character growing up, because that was the one that I could be in my mind.
And infinite potential.
Right.
If you're this good to be hanging out with Batman at 15, 17, 19, whatever, then imagine how you're going to be at like 30.
Yeah. And I think some people criticize the Kung Fu laundry scene, and it's first of all, it's played for a laugh, so if it's supposed to be funny, and two, the part that that also I accept it, I'd rather see that, and in my mind it's the show don't tell, like, okay, he must also take some self-defense or karate training if he can do all that shit, rather than Batman asking him, do you even know how to fight? Yeah, I actually have my black belt. We just saw it. It's over. I get it. He knows how to take care of himself two ways. He can do his laundry and he can fight. He's domesticated and also can fight.
And if he doesn't make it as a superhero, he can just do a Billy Blank's workout system, just laundry fighting. You get in shape. You know what I mean? I think that's a good way, and it's infinitely better than Batman doing a dumb montage, having him do a bunch of push-ups and kicking him and being like, "Oh, get better," and smacking him and stuff. It's infinitely better than that too.
Yeah, we know everything we need to know about him. He's got the aerial acrobatics with the circus. He can hold his own, with weapons. They also show in a fight. I love that, with that Neon Gang, he can fight. He's a little in over his head because he's just Dick Grayson, but all the key components are there so that when he finally becomes Robin, you buy it. You buy okay, this isn't just someone throwing on a rubber suit like Alicia Silverstone's character, who I never really was like, are you sure you can do this?
Bitch, do you even do laundry?
but do you know how to put your socks on a drying line? I think it makes sense, and I love the kind of pointed reference to holy rusted metal, Batman, and people are like, he's like, what? He's like, the ground, it's rusted, it's full of holes.
Man, that was funny.
That's funny.
That was funny.
And then they breeze past it. He doesn't do it 10 more times. He doesn't bring back any other Batman 66 references. It's just one little reference.
Yeah.
Get over yourselves, kids.
No, I mean, that was great. I mean, nerds will take it. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
Right? Robin was the worst.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, real quick, I just want to hit on a subplot of this movie that I also feel like ties more into the Burton era, the darkness. We never really had in those first two movies a movie where Batman, we saw the duality, but it was something that he accepted was a part of him. Whereas this movie, he challenges the idea that he has to be Bruce and Batman, and that it's a pain to live two lives. Whereas in Batman Returns, I think the problem with Batman Forever, or the thing that why it was kind of set up to fail in that way, is that this had to adhere to the world that was set before it. So we have a Bruce Wayne who doesn't care about being Bruce Wayne. He only wants to be Batman in Batman Returns. Then you get to this movie, and with Nicole Kidman's character, who is not as compelling of a character as Catwoman in terms of wanting to give up this life, but he hits that duality. And I do like the whole red journal subplot about this post-traumatic thing. Why is this red journal kind of triggering these post-traumatic events of when my parents were killed? But what I also like is a lot of people had some issues. with the Joker being the one that killed Bruce Wayne's parents in Batman 89. And I feel like this was a soft reboot of that idea when he sees in his mind Harvey Dent pulling back and killing his parents. And this goes back to something in the comics where for a while Batman was so deranged that every villain he fought, he thought they were the ones that had done this to his parents.
Yeah,
that they were, and
a very Punisher idea.
Yeah, I like that idea that this movie does, and Bruce, that guilt where he's like, I killed them, those kids, I slaughtered them, and Alfred's like, what are you talking about? He's like, Dent did it. Dent did it. He's like, no, you said I did it. Like, there's very...
yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, her being a psychologist as well. I think that's it. Well, okay. But I'm just saying, since we're defending shit...
No. You don't have to defend anything.
No, but her being... But, I'm just saying,
yes,
her being a psychologist and them delving into a bit more of the... I mean, I didn't see a satisfactory examination of the psychology of Batman... besides Batman Forever and maybe Batman the first one. I just felt like those were good examinations, especially for the time, of the psychology of being Batman. What does it take to divide your mind like that? What does it take to divide your focus like that? What does it take to wear a mask all day, as he says, and put his true face on at night? You know, all that jazz. Well, how does that affect you mentally? And just dealing with the fact that you may not be all the way crazy, but you are compartmentalizing to a super degree.
Yeah, and it's kind of a bummer and a blessing for this movie. Batman Mask of the Phantasm hit theaters maybe a year or two before this. And was the first, and to my opinion, the best portrayal of Batman. Like, is it wrong that I'm happy and I don't feel like I need to be Batman anymore? He stands at his parents' grave and says, like, it doesn't hurt as bad anymore.
Yeah.
I say that's a bummer that no one saw it, but a blessing for this movie because they were able to explore kind of that side also without kind of like people pointing the finger like, it's already been done.
Didn't we already do that?
Yeah.
It was in that movie we ignored that was brilliant.
Yeah, that everyone now is like, oh, would have seen that. So I really like the Red Journal stuff. There's a lot of deleted scenes where that was even fleshed out even more. But I think that's where Warner Brothers was like, all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit. We don't want to get too pathosy with this one because we just did that in the last one.
Right. No, so, I like that. I think
it's in there just enough, but I do like the idea that there's something very great about Batman wanting to call it quits because he's happy, and Dick wanting to get into it because he wants to settle a score, and Bruce being like, yeah, you probably will find Two-Face and you probably will kill him, but guess what? It's not going to be enough, and you're going to go out and try to find another. Yeah. And he says another face and another, just like we saw him project Two-Face as the killer of his parents because he can't deal with the trauma at hand. I love all that stuff, and I feel like that gets lost in Bat-nipples, you know. Like,
well, yeah, it's almost like a weird precursor in a way to like Memento, which obviously Nolan directs all those Batman movies, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you'll find John G, and it'll just be some guy, John Gary, right? And you'll just kill all these John G's forever because you'll never truly get the satisfaction.
You'll never deal with the root problem, and I love that moment at the end where he's like, I'm Batman and Bruce Wayne, not because I have to be, because I choose to be. And I feel like in that moment, that's as much peace as Bruce Wayne can ever reasonably have in his life.
And again, it gives him, I hate to keep using this word, but let's use another word, choice. Mm-hmm. It makes Batman as a real hard choice because there's so many writers who choose to display it as like even Frank Miller to a certain degree. It's just like he in The Dark Knight Returns, he just wakes up in the basement and his mustache is cut off and he's in the middle of being Batman again. And it's like it's not even his choice.
Like it's a Venom symbiote.
Yeah. Yes.
He's fight clubbing himself like, did
exactly.
I go out last night as Batman?
Exactly.
Right. It was the start of for these 4 movies, it was the start of Bruce Wayne kind of coming to terms with the life that he's chosen. By the time he gets to Batman and Robin, a lot of things didn't work in that movie, but I just want to quickly say one thing I did like was he's not haunted by his past. That's one of the few movies where he's not haunted by his past in that movie.
Right.
He finally is like, dude, I'm rich. I have a hot girlfriend in Elle McPherson.
Yeah.
Like, life's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing that I think a lot of fans, not me personally, that's not the beginning of my beef with those movies.
Sure,
We're going to talk about that. But I'm just saying, like, I think a lot of Bat fans don't like Batman being happy, but some of the best stories, even from the 60s in the so-called Neil Adams era, there's Neil Adams Batman stories where he gets hit in the back of the head with some skis. You know what I mean? And that's why he can't catch the villain for like 30 pages. You know what I mean? It's like there's a fallibility and also like a world travel guy aspect to him. He would get in adventures. He'd be like, oh, I'm here in the Himalayas. Oh, was that a rifle shot? and then next thing you know, he's in some adventure and he's got his Batman suit under his clothes or in a backpack or something. And he's this world travel guy who was just having fun. And now the Batman case is broken out.
Right.
That is emblematic of like Bruce Wayne can go places and have fun. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, but still never turn his crime instincts off. There can be that duality.
Yeah. I 100% agree. There's one kind of big, huge aspect to this movie, actually, that we have not touched on at all and been saving it for this. Jim Carrey at his Jim Carreyest as the Riddler. I loved the Riddler character. I loved Frank Gorshin's take. As a kid, Batman 66 was my primary source of Batman. Mm-hmm. I loved the Riddler episodes. I really loved the trajectory and everything about Jim Carrey's Riddler in this movie.
Well, and this is one of those where, like I said, he basically is like a Wayne Tech employee or something,
right.
and he comes up with this stuff, and the people above him don't get the technology or whatever, and they kind of kick him out on his ass or something, and he goes like, well, I'll use it on myself, and he goes psycho because of his invention, right? That's more or less.
Yeah, it's like he idolizes Bruce so much, and then when he's scorned by him, he wants to outdo him. And just there's so much good like comedic stuff, not just the big over the top stuff, but I love so he kills his boss, which is very very funny the way that he does it, very macabre. But then the police come the next day and he's like, here's a suicide letter, you'll see that it matches his handwriting and his sentence structure perfectly. Oh, the memories. I understand now why, it's very famously reported that him and Tommy Lee Jones had some issues on this movie because Jim Carrey got to be, we're dealing with kind of really heavy stuff with Bruce Wayne and his past and trying to figure out, and Dick losing his family and all this stuff. But Jim Carrey gets to be the one whose character is like at a 10 to 12 the entire time he's on screen. And I think Tommy Lee Jones was a little bit jealous, and that's why his Two-Face is always trying to up the ante to Jim Carrey's Riddler. And that leads me into concessions. So this is part of let's roll this all into concessions, because these are things that I agree with people who don't like this movie. And one of the big ones, you can't talk about the Riddler without talking about Two-Face. And as a kid, it didn't bother me that much. It was just another villain. But seeing now what they have been able to do with Harvey Dent in the animated series and the Aaron Eckhart version and, the Long Halloween, this really is not Two-Face.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what character this is, but it's not Two-Face.
Well, but again, this is my problem with the movies. All of the movies almost is like, due to the fact that it is a movie, it's hard to, without spending too much time with the villains, it's hard to establish why they're doing what they're doing, how they're accomplishing it, and blah blah. Which is why I think Heath Ledger's Joker is so compelling. Is that they just show him doing stuff. They don't show how he learned how to do anything or really why, other than chaos. And that's the perfect place to have a villain. But when you get a guy like Tommy Lee Jones, who I don't believe his character earned the right to be so nutso. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think part of the problem with him too is you can say it's silly and fine. All of this is kind of silly, but we know what Edward Nygma's problem is. He wanted the attention from Bruce. Bruce rejected him, so he said, I'm going to be better than you. Then finds out he's Batman and wants to destroy every aspect of his life. I get that story because I always know what the Riddler wants. Two-Face, I don't really know. Like, I know he doesn't like Batman because Batman's the good guy. And I know, I'm told, that he blames Batman, but other than that really quick like CNN clip where you see Batman trying to stop the acid on his face, like they had plenty of scenes together, him, Batman and Two-Face, but it's never like, you did this to me, I wouldn't have been this if it weren't for you. Like,
right.
I know, we've been talking about showing, don't tell, but this is a moment where I feel like had to be in there, because otherwise, why is Two-Face, why does he care?
Yeah, just a scene or two of him being a real, attorney general or whatever, or district attorney rather, and doing something of value, and Batman failing him in one way that allows that maybe Batman doesn't collect the evidence correctly or whatever,
right.
And that's why the prosecution has to backpedal, and that's why he has to do all this extra court stuff, and that's what gave the gangster the time to get some acid or whatever. But so it's like Batman messed up once, and then Batman messed up another time, not saving him from the acid. And now it's just like, okay, I can't help but blame you for this, and we would get it all the way. But a CNN clip doesn't do it.
And it's so funny because the movie, all the ingredients are there for that story to happen. Imagine if at the end, when they're all at the Enigma Tech, the Claw Island, and you have Nicole Kidman's character, Chase Meridian, and you have Robin, and they're both in those pods, and Riddler's going to push a button. Imagine if he had given the button to Two-Face.
Oh, my God.
Hey, Batman, here's your love life. That's a failure. Here's your protege. That's a failure. And your greatest failure, your friend Harvey Dent, he's going to push the button. He's going to flip the coin and decide which one of them gets it. Like, all the ingredients were there, and that's why, like, Two-Face, I will agree. I will not ever argue that Tommy Lee Jones' Two-Face is a plus. I also don't think, like, it's a detriment in the sense that, like, it's a waste of a character, but if you don't think of it as, like, if you don't go in with those preconceived notions of knowing what Two-Face could have been, if you're like, okay, this is just one of the villains that he has to fight, it's still an entertaining, fun movie. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, just the stripped downness of, like, and I think one thing that really has plagued any sort of vision in my mind and a lot of fans' minds of reintroducing the Riddler, even in a Nolan verse type of thing, is the fact that, again, I've said this before, I say it again, I don't like it when Batman fights through 50 henchmen and he gets to the main bad guy and smacks the hell out of him. I don't get that. The boss fight should be the boss fight. And I think Enigma obviously could not put up a boss fight against Batman in a fair fight. So they kind of throw Two-Face in as muscle in this, much like they threw Bane into the fourth one, as just plain muscle, and just stripped him away of all his character so that he could be muscle for a character that obviously isn't physically capable of messing with Batman. Yeah, and I think that's it's a waste to use him like that. Yeah,
they don't really tangle, though. So it's very strange.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's always his henchmen, and he, when Batman finally defeats him by throwing the coins in, he says, "You've always been a good friend to me, Bruce. Like, this is tough." And it's like, I wish you would have said that 2 hours ago. Right. So this would have made a little bit more sense. But you know what? Like, I already bought into the rest of the movie, so I'm okay with it. The only other thing I will concede: Tommy Lee Jones, not a good Two-Face. Mm-hmm. Nicole Kidman's Dr. Chase Meridian, they give her nothing to do but just to be a horny weirdo stalker. Like I understand her journey is to want Batman and then realize that Bruce is the one for her, is a better choice. But
Black Cat is in love with Spider-Man, not Peter Parker, sort of thing. I get that,
but it's done in such a, and it's one of those things where as a kid you don't pick up on, like, this isn't weird. This is just, it is what it. Just get to the fighting,
Yeah,
it is what it is. But when you watch it as an adult, like, she's such an accomplished therapist, but the things she says are just like, Bruce even kind of like makes fun of how dumb her diagnosis is. He goes to her office and he's like, "Here's a riddle," and she's like, "He's obsessed with you," blah blah blah. And he basically is just like, yeah, I know. Like, that's why I came here. Like, the script doesn't respect that she's supposed to be like the greatest psychologist in all of Gotham.
And what would it take to write her a couple, like, get David Mamet on there for one day of writing and give her psychology, that's my name type of speech, you know what I mean?
Because she really only does the psychology thing a couple times. It's really in that first scene in her office where Bruce breaks her door down, and then later on when Bruce is telling her that he's Batman and he knocks over the roses and it triggers a PTSD, she kind of kicks in a little bit as psychiatrist, but as soon as he's like, I need to tell you, she just kisses him. It's like, that's not patient-doctor protocol. Let him talk.
There's this I don't know, there's this weird line of like, people just get nuts around superheroes. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's this weird line that we're trying to cross of like they're appealing in every way. And I just feel like they could have given her a little bit of like, I don't know. I don't want to say hard to get because that has a weird connotation at this time.
Right.
But, just more professional, period, and have the fact that they have such an intense bond and such great conversations in this psychological vein, and she's opened up so many things that he hadn't thought about before. That would be the movie earning that love story, whereas it does not do that presently.
It goes back to show, don't tell, because they tell me a lot of times in that movie how smart she is, but then they only show me moments where she's acting like, a stalker.
Well, does she help? Does she help Batman to understand the psychology of anybody to resolve the plot? Because that would be great too. Just a little bit of like,
he comes up. First of all, it's not hard to figure out that that these riddles are coming from someone who wants to kill him. Like, you don't need to go to a therapist for that. And also, him and Alfred in the Batcave come up with the solution that this is Edward Nygma. Why it took them so long to connect the dots, I don't know. But I do love that scene. M-R-E, mystery. Another name for mystery, Enigma. Mr. Edward Nygma. Like, it's very like I could see the comic book dialogue bubbles coming out. But I enjoy that aspect of it. And
well, again, the movie vacillates a little bit in tone as well. I think that's one thing a lot of detractors, if they're too dumb to articulate that,
right,
that's probably part of it, because you're right, there's beautiful swooping like bat-like stuff as I don't know if it's on your defense list, but the choice at the end is still sick to me, that whole stunt of him saving both people, spoiler alert.
And for a 20-plus-year-old movie,
him saving both people in that way is super cool. And correct me if I'm wrong, I guess this happened in this movie. Yeah, the bat cape flame, the bat flame retardant cape situation. Yeah. That's a sick stunt. I don't care about all the physics of it. That's a sick.
When he runs out of the flames and he's just huffing and puffing with the fire behind him. Yeah, it's a great moment. There are a lot of great bat moments in this movie. Also, I really liked his like super sonar suit at the end, and unlike Batman and Robin, where they're just like, we should go home and change real quick. Like, this one at least was born out of necessity. Like, the Batcave is destroyed, but wait, there's a cave under the cave, which there's a deleted scene that explains it a little bit better, because when you watch the movie, you're like, wait, I thought all this was destroyed. But it is a cave even lower than the initial level that the Riddler was on. But I think that suit's cool. I think that moment was earned. Nothing gets me going more than the score blasting with the bat wing flying and the bat boat going at the same time. You're like, yes, this is how you get into a third act. I am pumped. I'm ready. My last concession I want to make, and I brought this up earlier in the show, and I'm going to bring it back around, where Batman is an aid/replacement to the police. The police do not even try in this movie. They are sitting around waiting for Batman at the beginning when the Riddler puts up the Riddler signal, and then Batman flies through it. They're like, I guess he's not coming. I guess Riddler just wins. And then Batman flies through. They're like, yeah!
There's a lot of yay Batman going on in this. The cheerleader aspect of the cops and the populace is a bit too much. Again, like I said, this is just me being a dumb jerk.
No,
I just feel like,
fair.
Yeah, he's... People seeing the Batman, it should be like, what was that? Oh, what? Oh, that's crazy. You know, they should maybe that, but not, yay, Batman, I saw him last week. He was in 7-Eleven. He got 2 Rice Krispie treats. You know what I mean?
But they just act as if like they got stood up for a date. It's like, so if Batman isn't going to come, are you guys going to do anything?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
What's the plan now, Gordon?
Like, do cops see a robbery and whip out their cell phone and go, yeah, can I patch me into Gordon? All right, Gordon, tell Batman some dudes are robbing. You know, it's like, just, go get them.
So yes, there are definitely some things about this movie that are not great, but I think it does more right than wrong. At least it's better than people give it credit to, and I feel like the first step is just surgically removing Batman and Robin from this film. If you can mentally separate the two, then you can see like, okay, that story structure actually kind of worked the first time. The second time they just, filled in different characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can recontextualize the fact that, like, and again, I'll go back to the Michael Uslan because I met him one time. He's the most famous person I've ever met, probably, or the most famous person to me. And he was just saying that, like, look, man, we were just trying to do the early dark origins of Batman, and then when we got a new director on there who had a different sensibility, then we decided to do the Dick Sprang, sort of for lack of a better word, bat repellent era of Batman, and see if we can make that cool for movies. And then, as you can see later on, we moved right back to the darker aspects of it. And he said that was very purposeful. And if that is just his media trained answer to, like, explain away a so-called bad 2 middle movies, it's still a great it's a great conceptual excuse if that's what it is. And I think maybe they were really trying to do that, and I think that's valuable. If these movies don't happen, we don't get the later movies that everybody blows all the time.
Yes, that's 100% true, but also, like, this movie was a massive success. This movie saved Batman from just being
that should be recognized.
Yeah, from just being 2 movies and done.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at it, I know I'm not the first person to think of it in this way, but if you look at it as Batman 89 is definitely, the 1939 early 40s Batman, and then Batman Returns is definitely kind of a nod to late 80s, early 90s surrealist, Arkham Asylum Batman.
Yeah.
And then you look at this one as kind of late 40s, early 50s Batman, and then Batman and Robin as a nod to 60s Batman. Like, the 4 movies actually work very well in that way as a chronicle of the kind of the entire canonical run of Batman in terms of, like, the evolution of the character. And in that, to me, that makes them all worthwhile and worth existing just for that.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, there's something to be said for the brave and bold, as it were. Brave and Bold was one of the best comic books and some of the best cartoons ever, because, like, Batman's with Etrigan the Demon one episode and the Flying Ace or whatever the next episode. He's just like, I just hang out with these guys. Sometimes I'm on an airfield in the middle of the day. Sometimes I'm at night in a castle. I'm Batman. I just do what I want. You know what I mean? I love that aspect of Batman, and I kind of wish certain parts of that would come back. I don't enjoy seeing Batman chilling out in the daytime. It's been well documented. But other than just broad daylight stuff, other than that, any conception of Batman you want is probably proper. And that's the greatest strength of the character, is he can be a dark Avenger who's all alone. He can be a guy with a kid sidekick. He can be a guy with a 20-year-old sidekick. He can be all these guys. He can go to space. He can fight Darkseid. He can do whatever he wants. And I think I think this was an attempt for the movies to embrace that. And for that, I think it's a good try.
Yeah, I think I think too with Batman. If you don't like this one, just wait it out. If you're not crazy about Ben Affleck Batman, wait it out. A new iteration of this character will always come back.
I think what fans don't want to realize is your grandkids are going to be watching Vin Schiebelmeyer as Batman in the year 3000 or whatever. There's going to be some sort of Batman, and that Batman's probably going to be a metal armored dude who turns into a jet or something. Time marches on. These characters will last forever. They'll outlast you or me.
Yeah,
and there's always going to be new interpretations, and I think that's to a great degree very good.
And I think new interpretations don't have to invalidate old ones. They just it all exists in this ether, and I think that's what makes Batman. That's why Batman will be forever. Thank you so much, Ed Greer, for talking this with me. I love talking Batman, especially those first 4 movies. They're very special to me. Every time I hear a Kiss from a Rose in an elevator, I just think of the summer of 95.
I thought we were never going to get a Kiss from the Rose reference on this damn thing.
Dude, the best music video of all time. It was like clips of the movie plus Seal shirtless in front of the bat signal. Like, that's how you make a music video. That's how you do it.
Yeah, it was an integral part of the marketing. I'll tell you that.
That whole soundtrack is. Yeah. You had Flaming Lips. I love that Bad Day song when Riddler's going to his apartment.
Yeah.
Or U2, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, which played over the credits. It was a great soundtrack. What's not to love about Batman?
Well, no, and you know what? I'll give you the highest compliment. I'm going to go watch Batman Forever right now.
It kind of makes you want to go watch it, right? And just kind of like look at it with just slightly different lens. Maybe you guys go watch it. Maybe you feel exactly the same way. I don't know, and I don't care. No, I love you all. Thank you for listening. Still coming up in the next few weeks. We'll have Ken Knapsack and I talking Rogue One.
Oh, dope.
Joe Starr and I are going to be talking some Speed Racer. And my boy Ryan and I are going to get down to the bottom of X-Men The Last Stand because I don't hate it. So thank you so much for listening to Hot Takes with Billy Business. We'll catch you next time.